What would you do if a giant stood before you, mocking your faith, defying your God, and daring you to fight alone? This is the story of a shepherd boy, a trembling army, a blaspheming giant, and the power of faith to overcome the impossible. Scene 1. The Valley of Elah. The valley lay heavy with tension, the air thick with dust and anticipation. Men gripped their weapons, but their hearts quailed. The cries of war echoed through the hills, yet the silence of fear was louder still. Two armies, locked in a standoff. The Israelites stood silent, their courage waning. Opposite them, the Philistines roared with confidence. And then he came, Goliath of Gath, a mountain of a man, standing nearly 10 feet tall. His helmet of brass shone like fire. His coat of mail, a brutal weave of metal, weighed more than an average man. His legs were sheathed in bronze, and on his back was a spear. The shaft thick as a weaver's beam, the iron head alone weighing 600 shekels. He stood in the valley, a living fortress, unshaken, unafraid. Why are ye come out to set your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and ye servants to Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. 1 Samuel 17:8. His voice rolled like thunder, defiant and proud, every morning, every evening, for 40 days. The giant mocked the God of Israel, and not a single man dared face him. Scene 2. Enter David. Yet in the quiet hills of Bethlehem, where the sheep grazed and the wind whispered through the olive trees, a boy named David watched his father's sheep, the youngest son of Jesse. A musician, a poet, a warrior in waiting. His hands knew both the strings of the harp and the stones of the sling. His heart beat with songs of praise to the Lord, and his soul burned with devotion. And then Jesse called him, "Take now for thy brethren an ephah of this parched corn, and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp of thy brethren." 1 Samuel 17:17. He obeyed, rising early with the dawn. Leaving behind his flock with a keeper, he journeyed to the valley, to a place of fear, not yet knowing that heaven had chosen him for a purpose greater than bread. As David arrived, he heard the shout of war, but it was not battle, it was ritual. The same scene repeating, the same fear spreading. And there stood Goliath again. "I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man, that we may fight together." 1 Samuel 17:10. David watched in disbelief, and something stirred within him. Scene 3. David's outrage. David walks among the men of Israel. They cower. He speaks with passion, indignation. He turned to the soldiers, baffled. Goliath had defied the living God, and no one would answer. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? 1 Samuel 17:26. Some called him naive, others reckless. But David knew something deeper. The battle was not his own, it was the Lord's. And when his brothers tried to silence him, David's faith only grew stronger, a beacon in the darkness of fear. To David, this was not just a challenge of flesh, it was a challenge of faith, not a battle of swords, but of trust in the Almighty. Word spread of the boy who dared to question fear, and soon David stood before King Saul. "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine." 1 Samuel 17:32. Scene 4. The shepherd's testimony. Before Saul, David recounted the battles he had already fought, not against men, but against the wild dangers of the field. He spoke of the lion and the bear, ferocious beasts that had threatened his father's flock. Yet the Lord had delivered him then, and he would deliver him now. "Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. The Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion, and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine." 1 Samuel 17:34-37. He spoke with the certainty of one who had walked with God. He had not forgotten past victories, for faith is not blindness. It is remembering what the Lord has already done. And Saul, with no other hope, said, "Go, and the Lord be with thee." They armed David with helmet and coat of mail. But the armor of kings was a burden to him. It was not what God had given. and so he cast it off. Instead, he took only what he knew, his staff, his sling, and 5 smooth stones from the brook. He moved not in might, but in obedience. Scene 5, the face-off. As David stepped into the valley, the armies held their breath. Goliath sneered, his voice dripping with scorn. "Am I a dog, that thou comest to me with staves?" And he cursed David by his gods. "Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field." 1 Samuel 17:43-44. But David's reply thundered louder than any giant's roar. "Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel." 1 Samuel 17:45-46. He declared boldly that the Lord himself would deliver the giant into his hands, and that the earth would know there is a God in Israel. Scene 6, the battle with a warrior's heart and a shepherd's precision. David ran swiftly toward the giant. 5 stones rested in his pouch, smooth and ready. He took one, placed it in his sling, and with a prayer on his lips, released it. Silence. Then the crack of stone on skull, and the stone sunk into Goliath's forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone. And there was no sword in the hand of David. The valley was still for a moment, then erupted in a roar of astonishment and praise. David had triumphed not by might, but by the power of the living God. Scene 7, victory and aftermath. Philistines flee. Israelites shout in triumph. Saul watches in awe. David lifts Goliath's sword. As the Philistine army fled in terror, the men of Israel surged forward, their hearts ablaze with newfound courage. Saul's voice rang out, filled with awe and hope. A humble shepherd had done what the strongest warriors could not. David's victory was a testament, an eternal reminder that faith in God transcends all giants. The sword of the giant became a symbol, not of death, but of divine deliverance. Scene 8, reflection. Long after the battle, David returned to the hills, his harp singing songs of thanksgiving. His victory was not just of the body, but of the soul. For every giant, be it fear, doubt, or despair, there is a stone of faith. The story of David and Goliath teaches us. When we stand in God's name, we stand unshaken. The battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. 1 Samuel 17:47. No giant is too great, no challenge too fierce, because with God all things are possible. The giant may roar, but the faithful will never fall. Stand firm, trust God, and watch mountains move.